Too a little short for a stormtrooper.
What's up, nerds? Welcome to another episode of the Multiverse Report. We are recapping the first episode of Marvel's She-Hulk, from New York City to a beach in Mexico and everywhere in between. My name is Mike Gibson. With me as always is Steve Haller. What's up, Steve?
Well, the return of Mark Ruffalo, which is interesting, and the debut of Tatiana Maslany, who absolutely killed it in this episode.
Yes, she did. We're talking about She-Hulk, and I believe, Steve, you and I haven't really talked about it before this interview, but based on interview, like we're grilling each other before this discussion, but based on what you just said, I assume that you had a favorable opinion of it.
I did, and I believe you did as well.
I had a very favorable opinion of it, more so than I expected to.
Agreed.
We talk all the time on this about Marvel fatigue setting in, maybe a little bit more for me than it does for you, but especially with some of the TV shows feeling like kind of the same thing, or does this really need to be a TV show? Is this like a necessary story? Is this just being dragged out? I don't know, blah, blah. Based on episode 1 of She-Hulk, I thought it was great. I thought Tatiana Maslany was incredible. We all know we should all know that she's an incredible actress, so I didn't really doubt that she was going to be great in it.
Right. In the definition, if you didn't know, now you know. Because
now you know. Yeah.
Yeah, that was above and beyond.
Yeah. I had read, after the episode came out, I read that originally they were going to save this origin story for like the end of the season. And like we weren't going to know how she became a Hulk until they were going to save that for the end. And it'd be like a flashback in either the second to last or last episode or something. I mean, I haven't seen the rest of the season, but it feels like that would be a mistake. I thought this was a great first episode. Really hook you to like not only be like, this is the new character that is compelling and interesting to watch. Also, hey, it's Bruce Banner and the Hulk that you love. Remember that guy? Watch this show because he's in it. So I shocked that they thought about not opening with this episode, I think.
That seems like it would have been a drastic mistake to not tap into exactly what they tapped into. They hit all the right notes, and it was, again, we've talked enough times about, hey, they don't take yourself too seriously, and they definitely didn't. Like it seemed true to comic form for Jen Walters, and like breaking the fourth wall, and the whole like her not needing to have like the lack of like I guess Hulk basically has DID like Moon Knight does. There's multiple people floating around in there.
Right. Yeah. And we've known that since the first Incredible Hulk movie with Ed Norton. And even in the Avengers when he starts calling him the other guy.
Right. Exactly.
Like that's been well established, and I like that they made it clear that that's not the case.
Right.
With her.
That she doesn't have the other guy. It's just Jen in there.
Exactly. Like he had to, and it makes sense that he would be upset that he had to work through it. He had to spend so much time. It's just coming to her so naturally, but not everybody's the same. So,
well, it was great that they buried the lead on that too. Even just for the couple of minutes that they did.
Yeah.
Where she was like, "Oh no, I was just confused and really angry. Like I don't know what."
I was hungry. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, it's fine. But like, I remember everything. He's like, wait, what?
Especially during, I'll jump right to it. This scene that's getting a lot of shares and retweets and praise online, where he's trying to teach her yoga or teach her how to calm down and control her anger, and she goes into like, I control my anger all the time. I get catcalled on the street. I have men explaining my own area of expertise to me. She's like, I am better at this than you because I do it infinitely more than you every day because I'm a woman.
Right.
And, a lot of idiot misogynists are getting mad about that, but I think it's very accurate, and it makes perfect sense. So for them to kind of tap into that and use that as a explanation, because I don't read the comics enough. I've read a couple She-Hulk books, but like not enough to know if they ever really gave a reason why she's more in control of it. She retains her same personality. than Bruce. I know that there are some versions that she doesn't. I know there are some versions where she's like Savage She-Hulk or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's clearly they're not doing that in the movies, or sorry, in the MCU, at least not now. So I think it was very wise for them to use that as the reason right out of the gate, because it makes perfect, absolute sense. So I thought that was great. How often do you think we're going to see Mark Ruffalo again? Do you think we're going to see him again, or is this his only appearance in the series, do you think?
I want to say this is probably it. Just because. Maybe a cameo here and there, like a spot, like whatever.
Yeah,
but I think this is the only episode where he's featured.
We'll maybe see him quick again towards the end, but I agree with you. I think this is the most, because he was in the whole thing. It wasn't a cameo. He was in the entire episode. And it's cool they explained his arm being back to normal.
Yep.
You know, they gave him so whatever, next time we see him, we won't have to explain it. We wanted to do it in a movie, you know, just like made it quick. I like the origin story. They did get it, like, isn't in the books, like, she has to have a blood transfusion.
Yeah, it's like an actual transfusion and something.
It is a car accident. It doesn't happen that quickly. He's the only match, and he regrettably decides to save her life, even though he knows that it's going to affect her.
Well, I like that they cliff notes it kind of
exactly.
Where it was,
they did. Yeah,
they
had to get into it quickly so they could
made it where he was even when it happened, he was like, "Don't do this." Like, while he's hanging upside down in a car, he's telling her not to save him, so that nothing happens.
Which makes sense, because as he talked about so much during that episode, he's been dealing with this for so long that of course that would be the first thing, even if he's half conscious, the first thing he would say is, "Don't touch me, don't touch me, don't touch me." Like, he's been in the trenches. I really liked, I don't know, for like, sometimes when I'm watching Marvel stuff, if it's not directly I guess sometimes I feel like I have a hard time caring about the stories and the plots that aren't connected to the original 6 Avengers, if that's weird. I'm just thinking about the stuff that I liked more, like the Hawkeye show I really liked way more than most anything else, or like WandaVision, or I guess WandaVision is not even really connected to the first 6, but like, I don't know, they were like in it from close to the beginning, you know, like early phase 2 or whatever, we met them. So I don't know, I feel like I'm not emotionally invested in somebody like Doctor Strange. Like, I like those movies, but like I don't feel for him the way I felt for like Tony Stark or whatever. So like a reference like from Doctor Strange referencing Tony Stark, doesn't really mean anything to me. But like Bruce Banner talking about building this bar during the blip with Tony Stark, I was like, oh, that makes sense, because they had a relationship and they were friends and they were colleagues or whatever. Of course, that makes sense that they would hang out together and build that. So like those references to the rest of the MCU and the hilarious
the through line
off of the Captain America joke, so funny. But like those kind of references that would annoy me if they were said by like another character, another show. Even like not, I was about to say the Ms. Marvel stuff, but that like lines up with her story being obsessed with Carol Danvers. But
like that's her whole shtick. So
but like, I mean, this is like the most gratuitous, but like in the Eternals, these are like immortal beings, shouldn't give a shit about the Avengers at all. They have a discussion while they're eating dinner about who's going to lead the Avengers. Like, who cares? You guys don't care about that. Like, what? That seemed like really like shoehorned in, and this felt like really natural and from a place that was like emotionally like rich, you know, like like you could tell like the animation in Hulk's face or Mark Ruffalo's face was like, it's hard for him to talk about. Like, he built this with Tony, or Tony built this with me. He always said that he was going to come back, and, you know, like, whatever. You're like, oh, but he's dead. He's my friend, and he's dead.
No, and
let's get
the through lines with that, like, being able to hit back on the Cap stuff, being able to hit back on the Tony stuff, like, that was a facet of the original 6 that we never, like, it's the first time we've really touched on it, outside of, like, Hawkeye talking about Nat a little here and there, and they even, you know, they used it in that, but I think like even this episode kind of hit a little more on, like, he went and, you know, the whole scene with him touching the plaque and the whole 9, but it seemed like this was just, I don't know if it's just Ruffalo versus Renner and how they delivered it or what, but it hit home, and
it was great. And it made sense.
And the Cap stuff, like, that to take what was effectively an internet fan theory about whether or not Cap's a virgin and then run that as the through line, and then pay it off with possibly the greatest mid-credit scene they've ever done.
So
or at
funny.
least the most hilarious.
Most hilarious, and also, like, I'm thinking about, I'm sure there are parents that watch these with, like, kids that are 10 and younger.
Yeah.
And have to explain, like, what the question is, wait, what was she going to say? Like, how do you have that conversation with your kid?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the effects. I thought Hulk looked incredible.
Yeah.
I thought Mark Ruffalo and Hulk looked incredible. And he should, because they've been using that.
Oh yeah, they've had
of him or whatever. Like, they got that. They got that down. She-Hulk was hit or miss, I thought, for me. There were times when it was better and times when it was a little jankier.
Well, it's funny because I don't know how New Year TV is, but I don't have a 4K TV. So, I do like down here in the basement. Like, it's not our main viewing TV. Like, I have my PlayStation on it. But up in the living room, it's just a normal, like, 1080p, whatever. And it, like you said, there was definitely some janky to it, but it wasn't like Lugs and Moon Knight janky.
No, it wasn't.
And it was a lot better than what we saw in that original trailer.
I agree. You could definitely tell that there were times when they spent a little more time on it.
Yeah. Or like, oh, she shouldn't quite move like that. And I think, something that they'll figure out if they use, like you said, they've perfected the Ruffalo as Hulk. Like, if they use,
it'll just keep getting better.
Right.
If we keep seeing She-Hulk appear, and I'm sure that we will.
Absolutely.
I'm sure it'll just keep getting better. But yeah, for me, it was less like how, like, the look of her and more like how she moved sometimes felt a little more like a video game versus like Mark Ruffalo's Hulk just seemed very natural and like as natural as a imaginary
giant green
monster creature would move.
Imagine whatever they're going to do whenever they try to do Swamp Thing.
They did a great. Well, you brought it up, and I know this is a She-Hulk review, but when DC Universe had their own app and was creating content for that, they did a season of the Swamp Thing show that was awesome.
Really,
and it was a practical suit.
Oh, there you go. That's what they're going to have to do it. Yeah, that makes sense.
It looks great. Yeah. We can talk about that more later, but
right. Also, you and I going off the rails never happens, Mike.
Never happens. But we're trying to keep this to She-Hulk related stuff. We meet Tatiana or Titania. How do you say that name?
Titania.
Titania. Yep. Titania. Okay.
Meet would be a very yeah. We get a snippet.
A snippet. Yeah. That was a little like it felt a little maybe a little rushed, but you want to end it with like something like a fight or whatever, something kind of.
Well, I'm not gonna lie, I was expecting a fight, but just against like some randomness. Whereas we know Jamila Jamil is coming through as Titania in multiple.
She's gonna
episodes.
Be the villain from what we've heard. Yeah. So. I feel like that was a little the way they shot that. I feel like they were kind of dancing around effects. It's like they spent their effects budget on the island stuff because it was like she threw a punch and then it was like a quick just shot of Jamila Jamil like falling into the wall. Like there wasn't any like you didn't actually see her flying. It was just a really quick edit. Like they did it in editing instead of in effects. I feel like I'm just on the lookout for that stuff now with all this stuff about like the Marvel versus VFX houses. Now I'm just like really picking apart like, did they not have time to do that? Well, like it's, they made their own bed. Now I'm just looking for holes.
There you go. The now what made me think about when you mentioned the island stuff. I actually loved how in the trailers they really buried the lead on. They showed like the scene where they're throwing boulders, and they show Hulk throwing a boulder, and then Jen like throwing the boulder farther. But in the trailer, they leave out the fact that the next shot is Hulk just chucking something into orbit.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, Hulk is still Hulk.
Yeah,
So,
he's not weaker,
right?
Like She just might be more efficient than he is.
Right.
You know,
and that I mean, through the comics, you see, I guess every iteration of Hulk, be it the Hulks, like Hulk, She-Hulk, Red Hulk, whatever, they all have their own little niches that one's better than the other at XYZ, and she's definitely a tighter, more efficient, less brute force. Well, a lot of brute force, but a nuanced brute force. So
yeah, I mean, that line I said earlier about her, like, saying men explaining my own area of expertise to me, like mansplaining. This whole episode is basically Bruce Banner mansplaining how to be a Hulk to her when she's like, "Yo, I got this already. Like, I can figure this out."
Well, Matt, I guess I didn't expect. We're at 15 minutes, aren't we?
Yeah.
I didn't expect, because that was the other nice thing that Ruffalo did was kind of give us that introspection of him realizing what he's doing and like, oh, everybody's experience is different. You're not going to be the same as me. And like, that was a nice touch to it. But overall, I mean, the episode was about Jen, and that was, a perfect centerpiece to the episode of the way, like, that origin story was done tight, clean, and was 25 minutes. And then there was 5 minutes on either end of it of setup and end. And, now we know who She-Hulk is.
Yeah, exactly. Now we know. We know everything we need to know to move on, like, with the story. And they made it just compelling and fun to watch. Like I said, I don't know what I expected, but I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I did. I actually watched it twice because my wife initially was not, like, interested in it. She saw the trailer. She was like, okay, you let me know if it's good. And I watched the first one. I was like, yo, this is good. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
I think you'll like it too. Interested to see where it goes from here. Because as much as I like this episode, I realize that it is, like, seemingly a self-contained episode. Like, I don't think she's going back to that island. Like we talked about, I don't think we're going to see much of Bruce Banner again or Hulk again. So it's almost like the second episode is kind of like is going to show us where we're headed and where the series is going to go.
Yeah.
And we don't really know that after the first episode, which what we just talked about in House of the Dragon, how it has to set up the whole season or the whole series. This didn't really do that. It did it as much as it introduced us to the main character. But it didn't really tell us where the season's going to go or in what direction. And maybe that's not as important when it's a half-hour comedy versus an hour-long epic fantasy drama.
Well, and I think if the comedy wasn't as compelling as it was, we probably would have been more apt to say, that we don't know where this is going. But they hit all the right notes, and they made it compelling enough for us to want to come back and figure out where it's going.
Yeah, I mean, like, what more do we really need to know? Now that I'm saying it out loud, like, do we really need to know more of where it's going other than she's going to have to try to balance her passion for her career with being a Hulk or being a superhero or stopping other superpowered things? Like, that's really all we need to know. And she's going to figure out a way to do both at the same time, I would assume.
Right. And we know she has no desire to be a superhero. She just wants to be a lawyer. So
yeah, but it's probably going to be I feel like they had to write around saying, with great power comes great responsibility.
Oh God, I can't remember what I wanted to. I was like,
going to say it. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I wish I'd have wrote it down, but there was definitely one where I was like, it's
yeah. It seems like that is what that's going to be kind of the theme without directly stealing it. Although there was a report, I don't know if you read this, like a week or so ago, one of the writers on She-Hulk said that they really wanted to use Spider-Man in the show, and they wouldn't.
Yeah, I saw that.
They couldn't use it. So I don't know. Maybe that would have been a cool conversation for them to
Sony.
have. Yeah, Sony taking away our Spider-Man, doing a bunch of weird stuff.
Kids these days, I tell you.
Kids these days. Anyway, I loved it. Again, we just did a review of House of the Dragon episode 1. This is our recap of She-Hulk episode 1. We don't know that we're going to keep doing reactions to House of the Dragon and or She-Hulk. But who knows? We may, if we feel the need to, or if you guys and gals and days and gays, if you like listening to us talk about She-Hulk, then we'll keep doing it.
Absolutely.
Maybe be the pilot episode because we're headed into a glut of content. So we'll see what happens, I guess. But this was our recap of She-Hulk episode 1. if you're listening to this saying, ooh, they did a House of the Dragons episode, you can go to listen to that right now. That should be in your feed. And if you're watching us live on Twitch, stick around because we are about to do our weekly normal show, which is
Right.
just a weekly recap of nerdy news. Kind of a light week, so I don't think it'll be a super long episode. But
well, we've already been talking for half an hour.
I was gonna say we've already this is the second episode that we've done tonight, so
yep.
You get plenty in your feed this week. So
there you go.
But yeah, that's all I got. If you got anything else, Steve.
No, just the usual. Like, subscribe. Check us out, themultiverseport.com. Like Mike said, check us out. If you want to hear about House of the Dragon and it's not in your feed because you're not subscribed to us, subscribe to us, and then, leave us a review because why not? It always helps us out. So,
sure does.
Yeah. Beyond that, I'd say, that's about all I got.
That's all I got too. So until next time, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the multiverse.
Okay. 2 down. Export as MP3. She-Hulk 1.